Let me ask you something simple. When was the last time you felt truly alone in the presence of another living being? Not the cold, aching loneliness of being ignored, but the profound, restorative silence of being with someone without the crushing weight of having to be something for them. You might remember a time, perhaps decades ago, when connection felt effortless. Think back to the unburdened curiosity of your early years, before you learned that love often comes with a hidden invoice, a demand for a certain level of energy, a specific facial expression, or a rapid-fire response to a text. You used to be excited about the vibrant noise of a crowded room. Now that same noise feels like a slow-motion collision, a sensory debt that takes you days to repay. If you find yourself gravitating toward the silent, amber-eyed gaze of a cat, a creature that watches you from the hallway with a quiet, unimpressed dignity, it is not because you have grown cold or antisocial. It is because you have finally reached a threshold where you can no longer perform intimacy at the volume society demands. There is a beautiful, aching paradox at the heart of your devotion to these small, solitary predators. The very sensitivity that makes you an exceptional observer of the human condition, the radar that once helped you navigate a chaotic childhood or a demanding career, is the same mechanism that now makes the world feel too loud to bear. Your love for cats is not a quirk, it is a vital act of self-preservation. To understand the cat person is to understand the architecture of a highly responsive nervous system. You are likely someone whose brain does not possess a dimmer switch for environmental or emotional input. Instead, you operate on a high-definition frequency where every subtle shift in a room is registered, processed, and felt. In the lexicon of psychology, this is often characterized by three defining pillars. First, there is the burden of complexity. Research consistently shows that those drawn to cats score significantly higher in openness to experience. While this translates to creativity, it also creates a mind that is perpetually unsettled. Because your internal world is so densely populated, you require a companion who does not fragment your focus. A cat acts as a parallel processor. They exist alongside your thoughts without demanding to lead them. Second, consider your sensory processing. Throughout your life, you may have developed a degree of hypervigilance, a state of constant, subconscious monitoring of your environment. For a hypervigilant system, a barking dog or a demanding partner isn't just a stimulus, it's an intrusion. A cat, however, operates via low-frequency regulation. Their rhythmic purr and predictable movements act as a biological anchor, signaling to your brain that the threat of social performance is over. Finally, there is the need for relational autonomy. Unlike traditional dynamics, the bond with a cat is rooted in mutual consent. A cat never assumes access to your emotional labor. For individuals who may have been forced to manage the emotions of adults when they were children, this is revolutionary. When a cat chooses to sit in your lap, it is a voluntary contract, a rare form of intimacy that does not require you to surrender your boundaries to be loved. This connection is also rooted in our biology through what is called the baby schema. Evolution has hardwired us to respond to large eyes and soft features with a surge of oxytocin. For the overthinker, this is a biological shortcut to peace. It bypasses the brain's analytical filters and speaks directly to your mammalian core. You aren't just petting a cat. You are participating in a biological feedback loop that lowers cortisol and forces your nervous system to regulate itself in real time. Philosophically, the cat serves as a mirror for your own internal state. A cat is the only creature that explicitly models the beauty of being unavailable. In a world that demands 24/7 accessibility, the cat's refusal to come when called is a masterclass in sovereignty. When you watch a cat ignore the chaos of the world, it validates your own secret desire to do the same. We are often told that to retreat from the loud, demanding pack is a sign of failure, but perhaps it is actually a sign of evolutionary maturity. If you find more comfort in the silent presence of a cat than the performative theater of a dinner party, you are not failing at being human. you are succeeding at being you. You are honoring a nervous system that requires depth over volume. A cat provides something the modern world rarely offers: witness without scrutiny. They see you when you are messy, when you are grieving, and when you are staring into the void. They do not offer advice or tell you to cheer up. They simply sit. They exist in the same space as your pain, making it feel just a little bit more manageable. Your love for them is a testament to your own depth. You are not alone in your silence. You are just in very, very good company. There is a quiet, invisible grief that follows those who find their deepest solace in the company of cats. It is the grief of a person who has spent a lifetime believing that their need for stillness was actually a defect of character. In a culture that treats high-energy visibility as the baseline for psychological health, your preference for the shadows is often mislabeled as coldness, or worse, as an inability to love. Carl Jung once observed, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely." For the cat lover, this acceptance is a jagged pill to swallow, because it requires admitting that the price of belonging in human society has become too expensive. You have likely sacrificed your own authenticity at the altar of social performance, pretending to be more available, more legible, and more energetic than your nervous system could ever truly afford. The core fear driving this behavior is the fear of emotional intrusion. To you, an unexpected phone call or an overly enthusiastic greeting isn't a gesture of warmth, it is a tactical breach of your internal perimeter. You have learned, perhaps through years of boundary violations, that intimacy often means surrender. This makes simple life moments, a dinner party, a team-building exercise, a long-term commitment, feel like complex negotiations of your very survival. You aren't avoiding connection, you are avoiding the sensory and emotional debt that modern connection incurs. It is the exhausting reality of a person who tracks every subtle shift in the room's atmosphere, every micro-expression, and every unspoken demand for your attention. When you retreat to the silent presence of a cat, you are grieving the world that refuses to let you simply be without also performing. This internal architecture doesn't remain confined to your living room. It manifests as a specific set of adult coping strategies, patterns that you may have mistaken for your personality, but are actually the ways your nervous system has learned to protect its limited resources. The workplace ghost. You likely excel at deep, focused work, but find collaborative brainstorming or open office noise to be physically painful. You are the one who subtly declines the forced fun of happy hours, not because you dislike your colleagues, but because you have already spent your day's worth of social currency just by existing in the same room with them. The parallel play romantic. In relationships, you crave what psychologists call co-regulation without conversation. You need a partner who can sit in the same room with you for 3 hours in total silence, each of you in your own world, yet securely bonded. If a partner interprets your need for space as a rejection, it triggers a deep sense of being misunderstood at a biological level. The vigilant parent or caregiver. If you are in a caregiving role, you likely offer immense care, but feel a secret crushing weight when that care is demanded rather than given. You find yourself most regulated when your charges are sleeping or quiet, finally allowing your system to downshift from the state of constant anticipation. Selective intimacy. You have a high-definition early warning system for emotional shifts. This makes you incredibly discerning. What others see as having few friends, you see as a necessary curation of your environment to avoid unnecessary interference. The recovery habit. You don't view doing nothing as a luxury. You view it as clinical recovery. After a day of human interaction, you may require hours of nothingness, low light, no sound, and the rhythmic, non-demanding presence of a cat to bring your stress hormones back to baseline. The complexity of praise. You often feel uncomfortable with loud praise or explosive affection. Like the cat, you prefer the quiet signal, the slow blink, the seat chosen near you, but not on top of you. You find trust in the subtle, not the theatrical. The unlearning begins the moment you stop gaslighting yourself. It starts when you realize that your distance isn't coldness, it is discernment. It is acknowledging that your nervous system is simply wired for a world that is quieter than the one we currently inhabit. You are not broken for needing a connection that doesn't cost you your peace. You are simply an ecosystem that requires a different kind of stewardship. To heal is not to fix a broken machine, but to attend to a garden that has been neglected by the storms of a loud and demanding world. For those of us who find our sanctuary in the amber-eyed silence of a cat, the path to resolution begins with a radical act of self-forgiveness. It starts by acknowledging that your preference for the shadows, your need for long stretches of mental quiet, and your aversion to the theatrical performance of social intimacy are not symptoms of a disorder. They are the hallmarks of a finely tuned nervous system, one that is wired for subtlety, for presence without pressure, and for a connection that does not demand a constant, draining output. The healing journey is, at its core, an unlearning of the societal narrative that equates noise with intimacy and visibility with health. We begin this process by engaging in what psychologists call inner child reparenting. Think back to the biological shortcut known as the baby schema, where large eyes and soft movements trigger an instinctive urge to protect and nurture. For many cat people, offering care to a cat has always felt easier than receiving it from others, because the cat does not monitor your mood or require emotional reciprocity. Healing requires you to turn that same caretaking impulse inward. It is about looking at your own quiet kid, your own overstimulated internal child, and offering them the same non-demanding sanctuary you give to your feline companions. It is telling that part of yourself, you do not have to perform. You do not have to be louder to be seen. You are allowed to arrive exactly as you are. This leads us into the necessary shadow work of reevaluating the labels you have carried. Society may have called you withdrawn, strange, or antisocial, but in the light of psychological truth, we must reframe these as acts of discernment. You are not avoiding connection. You are avoiding unnecessary interference. You are protecting the cognitive freedom that your intelligence needs to function. Healing involves reclaiming the word solitude from its modern synonym, loneliness. You must realize that quiet is where your clarity forms, where your complex emotions organize themselves, and where your ideas finally mature instead of evaporating under the noise of the crowd. Like the cat that watches from the top of the refrigerator, your distance is not a lack of interest. It is the vantage point of an observer who tracks subtle shifts in tone and emotional atmosphere that others simply miss. Central to this healing is the practice of choosing softness over the hypervigilance that once kept you safe. Many of us have nervous systems that spend the day anticipating and adapting to the moods of others. We have learned to be composed and emotionally contained as a survival strategy. To heal is to allow yourself to downshift. We find a template for this in the rhythmic, low-frequency hum of a cat's purr. Science tells us that these vibrations signal safety to the human brain, telling the nervous system that no action or vigilance is required. Healing is the process of building a life that mirrors that purr, creating environments that don't overwhelm your system, but instead allow your body to settle into a state of recovery. It is the realization that calm isn't boredom. It is the baseline for your soul to breathe. We must also confront the unsettling biological truths, the idea that we are ecosystems shaped by history, chemistry, and perhaps even microscopic passengers. Whether your bond with cats is driven by oxytocin, neural regulation, or the ancient evolutionary dance of predators turned family, the subjective truth remains the same. Your nervous system feels safe. There is a profound philosophical piece in accepting that we are not purely rational beings. We are creatures of instinct. To heal is to stop fighting your biology and to start honoring it. It is to accept that you are an ecosystem that requires stillness to thrive. As we move toward resolution, we must embrace the consent-based attachment modeled by the cat. In a world where relationships often demand more than they offer, the cat teaches us that love means more when it is voluntary. It confirms that closeness is deeper when it is allowed to breathe, and that true safety is not found in intensity, but in mutual respect for boundaries. Healing means applying this to your human relationships, choosing to engage with those who, like a cat, do not assume access to your emotional labor and who allow you to leave the room without requiring a justification. It is choosing connection that doesn't cost your nervous system its peace. The philosopher Simone Weil once wrote, "Attention is the rarest and purest form of generosity." For the cat person, this attention is not a loud, frantic energy, but a steady, grounding presence. Your love for cats is a declaration of your values, a commitment to depth over distraction, and to the right to live at your own internal pace. You are not fixing yourself. You are simply returning to a state of wholeness that the world tried to talk you out of. This quiet companionship is exactly what allows us to feel human again. If you have spent your life feeling like an outsider because you didn't perform your emotions loudly enough, let this be your affirmation. The absence of constant expression is not emotional absence, it is regulation. You are deeply observant, creative, and curious. You are a person for whom the steady hum of a purr is a more honest form of intimacy than 1,000 empty words. As we conclude this exploration, remember that this channel is a sanctuary for those who experience the world deeply and quietly. If these patterns have resonated with you, if they have put words to a sense of otherness you've carried for decades, then you have already begun the work of healing. You are not alone in your need for silence. We are a community of those who track the subtle, who value the voluntary, and who find our strength in the stillness. Consider joining us as we continue to decode the psychological patterns of the sensitive soul. And in the comments below, I invite you to share, what is the one thing your cat gives you that the world often doesn't? Let us honor the quiet signals together. Your goal was never to be fixed to fit a loud world. It was always to become whole in your own beautiful, silent echo.